Hello and welcome to this live video masterclass. Embrace your authentic voice. 3 steps to fearless self expression for women musicians. I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí, and I'll be telling you just a few things about myself a little later. But for now, I just want to thank you so much for being here and encourage you to ask your questions in the comments and throw out emojis and share the video. And I'm just really, really excited about this particular masterclass because it's the first time that I am going to publicly. I do this all the time with my students, but this is the first time I'm doing a public video like this specifically for women. I'm a coach for musicians. I call myself the Art of Freedom coach for musicians. And I work with all kinds of musicians, but I have come to discover that most of the people who end up working with me are women. And there are very specific challenges that women musicians face that I don't think get addressed often enough. And then we just end up seeing the fallout in the news all over the place, how women suffer in unique ways that men don't usually have to deal with. So, I'm going to be talking about that today. And I really would love for you to share your feedback. Let me know as we're going along in the comments. I'm going to be checking the comments here on my phone so that I stay, in touch with you. Although I think there's a little delay. So if I don't immediately respond, or if I'm in the middle of talking about something else, obviously, I might not respond right away. But absolutely, at the end of the hour, towards the hour, you can expect this masterclass to be about an hour. But then I'm going to stay on to answer any questions that have come up, and just I'll be here for you. All right. Also, towards the end of the hour, I'm going to be talking about a very special program that I've just created. It's based on a program that I've been doing for a long time. So it's tried and true and proven. It's very, very effective, but I've never done it specifically for women before. So I'm going to tell you about that program towards the end of our session. And if you can't stay because an hour is a long time to take out of your day, I totally get it. If you're curious about that 5-week course that's starting pretty soon, or about any of my 5-week courses that are like what I'm describing here today, then just type info into the comments and I will connect with you later and we'll talk about the possibilities for you and I'll share all the details about my program with you. I'll give you some reminders throughout the masterclass today about how you can get that information. But just upfront, I wanted to tell you that's available now, and there's an early bird special going on through Monday. So just type info in the comments anytime if you want to know more about that. Okay. So you are in the right place here today with me if you're a woman in music or if you are interested in topics related to not just women, but performance anxiety, not really enjoying your life as a musician. You're not able to you're not able to like live up to your own expectations and standards when you're on stage, or your technique is plateaued. Um, just there are all kinds of performance issues that could be of interest to you. So you're in the right place here if you want to learn about how to overcome physical, emotional, mental, spiritual challenges, basically any of the challenges that block you from fully embracing your life as a musician and loving every minute. And what else do I want to say? Well, what can you expect? You can expect over the next hour, you can expect me to give you my best and to practice the best I can what I preach. And what I preach is something very special and unique. It's called the Art of Freedom Method for Conscious Living and Masterful Artistry. I'll be talking about that a little later. But basically, it's about learning how to be yourself fully in mind, body, and spirit, to show up and be yourself in front of other people. And that's what I mean about myself right now, giving you my best, the best I can. All right. So I'm a little nervous because this is kind of like a performance. I am a performer, and as a performer, there's a little adrenaline. You kind of wonder what's going to happen. So that's where, when those thoughts happen in my mind here, I mean, this is a public page. It's my personal profile, but I have it set to public. So anybody in the world could be watching me right now. And yes, there's a little habitual doubt monster that pops up in my head thinking, oh my gosh, who's going to see this? But I know how to nip that in the bud with very, very specific techniques that I've learned and practiced over many years, and which I share with my students most days because I live this. I breathe it, I teach it, and I do my utmost to embody it. So you can expect me to be doing the best I can and giving you the best that I can based on my knowledge, my experience as a musician, as a performer, as an Alexander Technique double certified coach, coach for musicians, all the stuff I do. I'm here for you, and I'm going to give you my best by showing up the best I can. So what else do I want to tell you? Just a little bit more about myself, because I know there are a lot of people here potentially watching today or watching the replay who don't know me at all. I don't want to do a huge, big, long introduction, and it's always one thing women do have. Here, I'll just dive in right here. One thing I've noticed that women tend to have difficulty with, that is harder for women in general than for men, is to say good things about themselves. So if you can relate to that and it makes you feel like really funny about sharing your resume in front of people and telling people how great you are because it feels like you're being proud, and you shouldn't do that. Can you put something into the comments? I see Shira says, oh yeah. All right, yes. And I bet you pretty much every woman watching this can relate to this fear of putting yourself out there and talking about what you've done. So this is, again, me being real. This is me embracing authentic self-expression, because I know you need to know me and you need to know who I am and what I've done so that you can say, well, I guess it's worth listening to her for an hour or for a few minutes because she maybe knows what she's talking about. You're not going to know that unless I tell you these things. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to just come back to myself, practice the easing that, again, is very specific tools. I'm going to slow down, take my time. That's a big part of it. And I'm going to let the ideas just flow through. And when I do that, there's kind of a healthy detachment from, okay, I'm Jennifer Roig-Francolí, and this person has done a whole bunch of stuff in her life. But it's almost like it's like I want to take credit for it, and sure, I'm proud of it, but I know that there's something that is working through me, like through every single person. And we can't do anything in the world. We can't even move unless we let go and let things happen. As a musician, you need to learn how to let go and let ideas and music go through you, right? You know that as a musician. And if you're tied up in knots physically or upset emotionally, then you get tight and it's harder for the ideas to flow through. So, again, when I practice what I preach, I am going to tell you just a few things about myself. Okay? So let's see. Well, I've been a musician all my life. I'm from a musical family. I grew up with the Suzuki method, and my mom was a Suzuki cello teacher. She took me to Japan to study with Dr. Suzuki, which was amazing. And I'm mentioning this because I've been thinking a lot recently about how much the philosophy of Suzuki um, has influenced my whole life because Suzuki placed a very, very high priority on love. In fact, his philosophy, it's all about being nurtured by love, nurturing the students. And I'm so lucky that I grew up in a loving household and I was nurtured by love. And I learned that through the Suzuki method. And I loved playing my violin, and it's all I really cared about. So fast forward, I had very big solo ambitions. As a kid and teenager, I won a lot of competitions. I performed as soloist in Carnegie Hall multiple times over my life. I've performed as soloist with orchestras around the world, like the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra, the Berlin Symphony Orchestra. Um, blah blah blah. Right? I've done a lot with the violin. I've also recorded. I learned the Baroque violin. Performed with the Grammy Award-winning ensemble Apollo's Fire. Recorded with them. I studied with Nathan Milstein for 5 summers. If you're a violinist, you've probably heard of Nathan Milstein, one of the great icons of the violin world. And I also studied with Joseph Gingold at Indiana, another just world-class pedagogue. So I have a bit of a musical pedigree, and I was very successful. But then when I was 19, I took my life into a radically different direction, and I totally dropped my solo ambitions in favor of a new world, new perspective that opened up to me, which I had been completely ignorant of as a child and teenager. And what I mean specifically is that I got interested in spirituality and having a bigger perspective on life and creative spirit and love, 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 love. I got married at 20. That's part of the love part. Had 2 kids, 8 years, well, had one kid 8 years later, and then my other son a couple of years after that. Lived a family life, didn't care about my music, although I never stopped playing. I was the concertmaster and associate concertmaster of multiple orchestras. I won a job in the New York, sorry, not New York, it was in New York, the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. And that is where I started experiencing performance anxiety for the first time, believe it or not. This was in my 20s. Before that, I just loved performing, sharing my life, my experience, my love of music, my passion with the world. As a little kid with the Suzuki method, I was always involved in groups. We started performing in groups from the time even before you can play anything, you're on a stage. So it was really easy for me to perform. I got excited, not nervous. Then decades later, I started having my first experiences of performance anxiety. Um, Fast forward again, I found something called the Alexander technique when I started feeling really unhappy. Over time, this happened in my life. I started becoming more unhappy and I started having neck pain, probably from carrying kids around lopsided on my hip. And so I found the Alexander technique. It was actually my third try. I didn't like the first 2 teachers. It didn't work for me. In fact, I didn't like it at all. I said, I don't like this stuff. Then I had a good friend who encouraged me to try one more time. And that's when I found the right teacher. I mean, you're musicians, you're not just going to go to any violin teacher or any clarinet teacher. You're going to find the person that you click with that is able to connect with you and help you. So it took more than a decade for me to find that teacher, but he did show up and my life changed absolutely, completely, almost overnight. My neck pain disappeared. I have a history of lower back pain that went away, not immediately, but especially later when I found primal Alexander technique, which I'm going to talk about too. So long story short, I fell in love with the Alexander technique and did 3 years of training to become certified. It's 1,600 hours, basically 4 4-hour classes a week for 3 years. It's a lot. So I did that, got trained, got certified, did another certification years later, and then did 8 more, and I continue with that. I did more than 8 years of specialized training in primal Alexander, which is a special mode. It's a variation on, that's not the right word. I keep forgetting the word that I mean. It's an evolution of the Alexander technique that doesn't require touch. This is important to mention for women, especially who, um, again, I'll talk about that later, but the fact that it's touch free and you don't have to be in the same space with a teacher, you can learn this on your own, I think is really empowering for anyone, not just women, but especially for women and women who have had maybe challenging relationships with teachers or, power dynamic issues with colleagues or um, conductors, bosses. It's nice to have a way to access your own inner wisdom, your inner teacher, and have a system where you can learn for yourself how to take care of yourself. And that's what Primal Alexander does. That's all I teach now. It's that kind of Alexander technique, which is pure Alexander technique. All the universal principles of Alexander technique are in there, but it's like taking it to a new level of ease and simplicity and self-empowerment to learn it this way. So I'm very, 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 very excited to share that with you today. And I'll talk about that more later. So now I want to dive into the 3 main teaching points that I promised that I would share today. Excuse me. These are the 3 steps that you need as a woman to embrace your authentic voice and enjoy relaxed confidence when you're performing. And not only that, so that you can bring joy and happiness to yourself and your audiences and your students and all the people that you want to share your music with. Why are we musicians anyway? I think it's very easy to lose sight of why we started making music in the first place. For most people, I wish I could say all, but for most people, we are in music because we love it. We love it. There's something about it that maybe because it's not verbal. I know for me, that was a big deal because when I was a kid, I was very shy. I was a shy girl who had a hard time connecting with other kids, other girls. I didn't feel like I fit in. I was a year younger than everybody else starting in first grade because I skipped first grade. So I think that made it a little harder to connect with people. But I think it's a common issue for girls that, and if you want to share something down in the comments about that or ask a question about that or throw out some emojis, if you as a child, as a girl, as a teenager ever felt that it was hard to connect with people on a deeper level, that it was all very superficial, that's how I felt. And when I was young, I didn't stop talking, but I really ended up not talking that much because I felt very not understood. I had a very rich imagination and I buried myself in books all day long. If I wasn't playing the violin, it was about reading, reading, reading. I forgot to mention that I'm a best-selling author too. Just had to throw that in there because that's become a big part of my life actually is writing. But anyway, there's something about music not being verbal where I loved it because I felt like I could say anything to the world. I could express any emotion through music and people wouldn't even know what it was about because it was not verbal. And if you've had that experience or that's something that draws you to music also, that you get to pour your heart out and use it to heal your own emotions, then put yes in the comments, right? If you can relate to that. So the point is, we are musicians, hopefully, most of us, because we love, love, love music. All right. So getting in touch with that purpose is essential. Now, because you're in music and presumably you want to continue in music, or maybe you actually are thinking of quitting because it's so hard. And in that case, really reach out to me. I've had a lot of clients that I've worked with that were on the verge of quitting, and I help them, fall in love with music again. So please reach out to me. Don't quit yet. Talk to me first. Of course, you're totally free to quit, and sometimes people I just thrive once they quit. So there's never any judgment from me one way or the other, but I can help you clarify what's going on for you. But anyway, the 3 steps that you need to embrace your authentic voice as a female performer so that you can express yourself through music, heal yourself, help heal the world and the people around you through your music. The 3 things you need are information. Number 1, information. Then you need one simple solution, which I will give you. And then you need to practice it. All right. I'm not saying you need to practice your instrument more. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but you probably don't. And there are a lot of myths about quantitative practice that I would just love to crush. maybe not today, but I did write about it in my book. But let's start with the first one. To embrace your authentic voice as a woman, you need to get informed about common problems for women musicians. And I have found that there are pretty much 5 main obstacles for women. And so I'm going to run through those right now. Number 1, there's gender bias and stereotyping. Like it or not, this is the world we live in. I'm not going to go into history. I'm not going to go into why. I think we can all agree, though, that there is still gender bias and stereotyping going on in the music world. I know some people feel it more than others. Some instruments, for example, are still mainly the domain of men, although things have been changing in this arena. But even just yesterday, I got a message from somebody who talked about how she's been having to deal with what she said chauvinistic attitudes. Those were her words. Chauvinistic attitudes in her orchestra for a lifetime, and she's just really tired of it. If you're tired of gender bias, stereotyping, and just feeling like you're being put down or made small or less than because you're a woman, please throw out some emojis so people can see that you're not alone. Put it into the comments. And I know putting things into the comments can be a little scary, but this is about embracing your authentic voice, being yourself, and showing up. So even just putting stuff into the comments might be a little scary, but it can be good practice to be yourself fearlessly, confidently. Just share stuff in the comments. There's no pressure, absolutely, and no judgment if you never, ever put anything out in public. I'm not here to judge. But if you want to challenge yourself just a little bit, that's a great place to start doing it. Share something that may be a little challenging to share in the comments, and it'll help you with your musical performance in a very indirect way, but you're going to get better at being yourself in front of strangers. Okay, so that's the first thing, gender bias and stereotyping, first obstacle for women. Second one, lack of representation and role models. Again, these things are changing. A lot of really, really good things have been happening over the years for women. You look at some orchestras in the world, they're mostly women now. Unbelievable. Just some decades ago, you would hardly see any women in classical music, in classical orchestras. Very, very, very few. The Vienna Philharmonic comes to mind. Like they didn't allow women until fairly recently. So, we have history to deal with. And when I think about growing up as a violinist who wanted to be a solo violinist, just about I would say all of my role models were men, right? Heifetz, Milstein, Michael Rabin, just all the names that come to my mind are men. Those are the recordings I listened to. And I love those men because they made incredible music and they changed my life. However, I didn't realize, I was a naive girl growing up. I never even put two and two together and realize that there were no women role models. And so, again, I was lucky because of the family I grew up in. They were very open and loving, and I never felt anything. I was also very naive in many areas of my life. But now, as an adult, looking back and having coached hundreds of women in music, I know that the lack of representation and role models is still an issue. And if it's an issue for you, put that in the comments. Okay. Third obstacle. This one's huge, and it's constantly coming up with my clients: imposter syndrome and self doubt, where you just don't think you're good enough. And you worry if you're ever going to be good enough. This happens with men too, okay? I'm not trying to say these issues are only for women. However, there are a lot of good reasons why women doubt themselves when they are wanting to perform, when they're putting themselves into the limelight. Basically, you're bearing your soul in public. You have to make yourself very vulnerable and share the most intimate, deepest regions of your soul, your heart, your whole being. You're on stage under the spotlights, and you're being asked to just bare your soul in front of strangers, possibly thousands of people, or maybe even just in front of a teacher or an important person in your life at home in your living room. I talked earlier today about women making themselves feel small. I said it's a little hard for me to tell you about all the great things I've done in my life, but you need to know about them. Because I want you to believe me and know that I know what I'm talking about. But no matter what you have or haven't done in your life, you've been conditioned as a woman to not toot your own horn, to not share stuff, to not um, put yourself out there, not make yourself big. I mean, yes, there are women stars that are larger than life in music. First person who comes to my mind, Madonna, you know, Lady Gaga. These are huge, larger than life women. And yet, we in the classical world, yes, we have some role models as violinists. I think of Hilary Hahn. She's incredible, wonderful, wonderful. There are wonderful women who put themselves out there, but it's not the way we've been conditioned to think of good girls. This is no reflection on Hilary Hahn. She's a very good person, I'm sure. I don't know her personally, but my point is, we've kind of equated women, girls, we're supposed to be quiet, small, nice, generous, loving, self-effacing, not talking about ourselves, not putting ourselves out there, putting everybody else out, putting everyone else first. Um, just basically making ourselves small because we're supposed to be modest and humble. And I would challenge that. I firmly believe that a lot of this is that women have taken on. We've taken it to the other extreme, and it has become a false humility. When you're making yourself small, and you're just like, oh, no, 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 I don't need anything. No. And oh, no, 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 I couldn't do that. You're much better at that than I am. That kind of making yourself small and putting yourself outside of the spotlight in your daily life, that's not being your true, authentic self, because your true, authentic self is made of beauty and light and love. And that is something that is inherently, it has an inherent quality that is solar. It's You are made to share love and light. And you can't do that if you're making yourself small. When you make yourself small with a false humility or false modesty, and I say false because you're really not small. If you're making yourself small, it's not true, it's not authentic. And I'm not here saying you should do the opposite and say, oh, I'm so great. I played in Carnegie Hall. I wrote a best selling book. No, that's disgusting. Okay. We don't want to do that either. There's a very fine line. There's a balance we need to find. And the only way that we can find that balance is by getting out of the way, letting go, and developing it's actually a spiritual quality of healthy detachment where you're not attached to the stuff you do or don't do. You're not attached. I mean, you do your best. You want to do your best, but you can only do your best when you allow your best to go through you and you realize it's not all about you, that there's something bigger, greater, more wonderful, and mysterious that works through you. When you get out of the way, you let go of the negative thoughts, the self-criticism, the the shoulds. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Oh, I shouldn't do that. Or I should be able to play like this. I should be able to put myself out there. I should be strong and I should win this audition. That's no good either. What we really need to do is learn how to let go and be ourselves. Because when you can undo or let go, get better control over your mind and your thoughts so that you're thinking a little less, for one thing. But when you are thinking, it's constructive, it's helpful, it's not self critical or destructive. Positive, constructive thoughts actually help you think less so that you can more naturally embody who you really are. And you're so unique. How could you even compare yourself to anybody else on this planet? But women do it all the time. Boy, obviously, I could do a whole talk just on this, and I'm only on number 3. As usual, I digress. Let me get back on track. We have 5 obstacles, just to backtrack. And by the way, if you need to go at any point or you're just coming on late, just a really quick interlude here to remind you that I have a brand new 5-week course coming up that is incredible. It's just for women to help with authentic self-expression, relaxed confidence, and joy. If you want the information about that course, I'm going to be talking about it later, but just put info into the comments and I'll be in touch with you to share more about that with you if you need to leave earlier or whatever. But try to stay until the end if you can, because I'm going to talk about special bonuses that expire on May 20th, which is coming up soon. You want to know about that. Don't miss that. You can save some money too. Okay, so we're on the 5 main obstacles that women have, and men sometimes too, also. That was redundant, too, also. There goes my English. My father was an English teacher, and there goes my self-critical mind correcting my grammar. Right. So anyway, these are the 5 obstacles that get in the way of women who want to embrace their authentic voice as a performer. We have gender bias and stereotyping, lack of representation and role models, imposter syndrome, and self-doubt. And this one is huge. Okay. Number 4 is also really big: work-life balance and responsibilities, family responsibilities. Now, men have this too, right? But I think we all can agree that historically, the burden has fallen mostly on women around the globe, in all cultures, I believe, for women to take care of the family. And I think there's actually something that's really natural and normal about that. Women as mothers, I mean, everybody here's a daughter. If you're a woman watching, we know that the role of mother is like no other. It's the most wonderful, loving position role that you can have in life, or to be a daughter and witness that. So there is an inherent quality, I believe, in women that we need to really, really embrace. And yes, we love our families. Of course, we want to love our families, and unless we have a scary history. But ideally, there is a sense of wanting to be close to the people we love, right? So relationships are so important. Again, for men also, but here we're talking about women. And we really, if we have kids, we want to be spending time with them, quality time as they speak, but time itself, right? So, how do you balance having a career, being a performer, needing to practice, spend time on your own, alone with your musical instrument? To improve and learn the repertoire that you need for tomorrow night's concert or the 10 gigs you have next week, and you need to look at the music. How do you balance that kind of work with being fully 100% there for your family? This is really tough for women. I think you probably are very aware of that. I don't need to say more about that. But just last thought is, like, women, we never feel like we have enough time. Can you relate? Give me a thumbs up if you can relate to that, or put a comment down there. We never have enough time. There's never enough time. And we have high standards. We want to do things well. We have perfectionistic tendencies. We want to do things right because we've been trained to be good girls, and we do things well and we do things right. Or we rebel, and that causes other problems. Okay, we swing back and forth, right? But basically, there's never enough time. We're trying to put other people first. Caregiving is really important. You can't do it all, except you can when you understand what I'm going to teach you next after I get through these 5. Okay. Fifth one, big one: sexual harassment and discrimination. And it just makes me really angry. I'll just say it. That's an emotion that's normal and human. And we need to, as artists and women and people and human beings, we need to be able to feel our emotions, but then let go of them. If you're making music, this is a very, very important super skill that most people don't know how to do. You need to be able to fully embody and passionately feel the emotions of the music without getting tight. Like, you don't want to play like this, even though you're passionately into what you're doing. It's full of tension. You need to know how to let your things through. Okay. Oh yeah, I was feeling angry about sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual discrimination. Huge topic. It's in the news way too often. In fact, it was just in the news recently about an esteemed institution, New York Philharmonic. Need to take a breath here. Ah, yeah, so I don't want to go into so much. Obviously, I'm not going to go into details here, except to say that I have so much empathy, compassion for all of the women who have had to suffer from this type of abuse. It's so not okay. And sadly, it's pretty common. And I've had so many female students talk to me over the years about maybe not so much the sexual abuse, but emotional abuse. And not just from men. There are a lot of abusive teachers out there. A lot of people have come to me with stories about how they almost quit, or they were always terrified to go into their lessons. Conductors looming over their shoulders from behind during rehearsals that would freak them out. Conductors yelling at orchestras. There's a former client of mine that comes to mind immediately. She's an amazing performer. She's at a very, very high level, and yet she has had to endure conductors, famous conductors, one in particular, who kept putting her down and treating her like a child. Not only that, but colleagues that would talk down to her, treat her like a child, even though she's an amazing performer. And this is not uncommon. there can be a really strong power imbalance that makes things harder for women on the receiving end than I think men. It's a little different or very different. Okay, so I'm not going to go more into that except to say that it's really hard to be yourself, to be open. Like I said, artists, we need to be able to be vulnerable and open so that we can let things through. It's really hard to do that when you don't feel safe. When you're, for example, playing in an orchestra and your colleague has abused you, sitting next to you, your stand partner, or your conductor has abused you, or you have a history of learning your instrument from an abusive teacher, so that tension and fear is embedded into how you think about playing your instrument. When you don't feel safe, your body protects you by increasing, there's it's like a level of tension that you carry around that you don't even know you have it after a while until the threats are completely gone. And then you realize you're carrying around this tension and then you don't know how to get rid of it because it has become so habitual. It's really hard to play your best when you have when you don't feel safe and when you have a history of not feeling safe with your instrument. These are major, major obstacles for women. Okay, so I promised to share 3 steps that you need to embrace your authentic voice as a female performer. The first one is gathering information, and I just gave you the 5 main obstacles for women musicians. We have to have that information. You have to have your eyes wide open and realize what the environment's like and what it can do to women, making you feel less safe or making you feel small. And all these things get in the way of feeling totally free to be yourself and have fun and enjoy yourself, relax on stage, and just pour your love of music out for the world. That light, it's not able to shine when you don't feel safe and you have that kind of history. So that's what I want to help you with. The second step that you need after you've gathered the information that I've just given you, you need one simple solution that addresses all of it. Okay, that might sound like a radical claim, but I know it's true. It really is. You don't need to, I mean, therapy can be great. A lot of the people who work with me have done all kinds of other things. They have gone to therapists, they've gone to counseling, they've gone to get regular massages, body work, hands-on Alexander technique, Feldenkrais, tons of things to help them overcome these issues. And there's a lot to be said for a lot of physical therapy. That's another one, because a lot of these people actually have physical pain. So then they go to the doctor, the chiropractor, the massage, the physical therapist. A lot of money has gone into trying to solve all these issues that come up for women because of the things that I've mentioned. And yes, a lot of those things can help, but there's nothing that really brings it all together that combines my 5 life pillars of the Art of Freedom method, which are your purpose, your mind, your thoughts, your mental attitude, your body, your physical being, how you present yourself physically, how you feel physically, your emotions, your creative spirit, and your artistry, the specifics of technique with your instrument, your skills, your musical knowledge. All these things need to come together as a whole, to be addressed as a whole. And that's when you can get to the root of these things, learn how to let go of them, and it's really not hard. You don't need a lifetime of therapy, and you don't need to analyze and figure out why you have this problem, why this is happening to you, why, because of the history of X, Y, Z. You don't need all that. It can be useful, but you don't need it. What you really need is something that is self-empowering. There's a way to access that inner strength, that purpose, that love and joy on the inside of you that helps you be resilient. When you learn how to relax and let go into that, then you can access ease and radiate that joy for yourself first and then for everyone else. So there is one simple solution, and it's a foolproof, holistic solution that I'm going to tell you about. Yes, it's important. I'm just going to say it's important for people to, for a society to change laws. Yes. And we absolutely need to get rid of the systems that are allowing all this abuse to happen. Yes. Activism is really, really important, and doing things on the outside, that needs to happen. But have to say that that is a slow and difficult process for it's for society as a whole. It's very important. Thank God there are people that do that. And yet, you, me, you need to have a system that helps you right now. And your environment is not likely to change right now or anytime very soon. So, what you do have control over is how you take full responsibility for your experience right now, your experience of being yourself based on your past history, your past experiences, your present current circumstances, the world around you. How do you respond to that? We need to individually do the inner work first or alongside the outer work. But really, when you do the inner work in the ways that I'm going to talk to you about, it's pretty miraculous how the things around you start to resolve themselves. And again, I'm not saying we don't need to do things on the outside. Yes, you need to have clear boundaries, and you need to have the courage to stand up to certain situations. And it's hard. People are afraid of losing their careers, so they stay quiet. And that is absolutely understandable and completely okay. And so, yes, we need to change what's out there so that that doesn't have to happen. People shouldn't feel afraid to speak their truth. And yet, that's the reality. So, the first step is to accept reality. Yes, accept it before you can embody and embrace the most effective way to deal with it on the outside. So, you have to find, first of all, that acceptance within, because then you're going to be able to think more clearly and come up with the most effective, powerful solutions to deal with what's on the outside. It has to start inside. Okay. We need to take full responsibility for ourselves, our own thoughts, and our own actions without blame and without judgment. And I know you may argue with that one. And please put in the comments if you want to argue. I'm totally open to that. and you are free absolutely to not. I always tell my students, I'm going to give you ideas. You can take them or leave them. Take what's useful for you, throw the rest out the window, and live your life and do your best. And I wish you well. In my experience, we need to really put ourselves first. And the one solution, the one simple solution that I keep mentioning is really to recognize that your individual self is your primary instrument, and you have control over how you think and how you act and how you move in this world. You need to first get really, really good at knowing yourself and knowing what happens to you in this moment when you have a certain thought, when something happens on the outside, when someone is treating you and saying just ridiculous things to you or being horrible. First step is to be in touch with how you're feeling, what's actually happening to you. So, self-knowledge, self-observation, improving those skills, getting really, really good at being in touch with what's actually happening in the moment from moment to moment to moment to moment. You are your primary instrument. You need to give the most care and attention to this instrument and practice this one. Because when you are well aligned with your purpose, your heart, your intentions, your highest values, when you're integrating your mind, your thoughts, your body, how you move, how you live, how you relate to other people. When all those things come together and you're you're living with mind body coordination that's in alignment with how you are designed as a human being. We are designed for our systems to work and function beautifully. But then things happen and we have animal reactions, which are normal: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response. It's totally normal. It's the brain taking care of ourselves so that we either run away or fight or or submit. Those are natural instincts. We need that to protect ourselves for survival. But we are also thinking human beings, and we have, I can say, the divine capacity to rise above our initial reactions and consciously choose what is going to work for us best. So here's a really simple example. You're on stage and you're feeling nervous and you know your body's tight. Yeah, that's the animal part of you that is totally freaked out from being under a spotlight with 100 potential predators around. It's normal. And yet, it's not really a life or death situation. So, you need to be able to use your mind constructively to be aligned with your purpose. What do you really want? Why are you actually on stage? It's because you love music and you want to share that with everyone. But if you have a history of fear and not good experiences and making yourself small, it can be like impossible to shed that fear, let go, and just relax. People say, oh, just relax. Well, you can't. You do not have the skills. You have the history that keeps you on alert, and there's tension there. And either you go for it and you just do it and you push through and you make yourself strong, but that's with a lot of extra tension. And then you're not going to be able to freely and fully share your love and feel joy. You're not going to be able to do that if you have all that extra tension. So you need to learn how to do primary practice. This is your one simple solution. Primary practice is a term that I've coined based on Primal Alexander, which is that touch-free method of the Alexander technique created by my partner, Mio Morales. So what I alluded to before. Primal Alexander is true to the principles of the Alexander technique, but we don't use touch. And that can be so helpful for women to not have to be in the same space, not have to deal with someone's touch, especially if you've been abused. It can also be helpful to be in the space and to be touched with loving, non-manipulative touch. That's very, very, very healing. But there's something about Primal Alexander where from the very first day, you are in charge of your thoughts and your body and your emotions. And you are taught right away how to be more discerning about what's actually happening to you and immediately what to do in response that instantly allows you to start shedding overall tension. Okay, it's an amazing process. Primal Alexander is, I can't say enough good things about it. That's why I've done more than 8 years of study with Mio in Primal Alexander, and it's all I teach these days. It's online, it's touch-free, it's empowering. And women need self-empowering techniques that put the ball back in your court. You need to know how to take care of yourself, not to be dependent on a teacher or somebody in an authority role. And again, not everything's for everybody, but I have found this to be an incredibly powerful process for myself and the hundreds of musicians that I've been sharing this with. It's just foolproof. It works. And it's very, very, very simple and easy to do. And from day one, you know exactly how to let go and take care of yourself. So some of the results. I was going to tell you what primary practice is because that's really the solution. Here's the definition of primary practice. It's the practice of noticing and prioritizing the quality of awareness that you're bringing to your experience of yourself, your whole being, as you engage in any given activity at any given moment. It's basically you get out your instrument and you start practicing, but your attention, your curiosity needs to be on, what's happening to me as I'm doing this? Oh, I've got a little tension here. Oh, okay. So where in my body is there less tension? Where is there a little bit of easing happening? There's a whole process that I take people through that is about being curious and playful and like a little child that's innocent. And you get to go back to this place where anything's possible, regardless of your past history and regardless of the fact that you're a woman. Anything is possible. And when you can step into that land of all possibility, I call it that. It's like the lap. When you get onto the lap, the land of all possibility, you are taking care of yourself and you're accessing your own wise inner teacher. Your inner teacher knows better than anybody on this planet what's best for you. And you need to be able to listen to other teachers and people in positions of authority. I mean, here I am being a teacher. So you listen, but you drink it in, and there is like a GPS inside of you that can tell, is this something that's good for me or not? If it's not, turn off this video. Right? Go back to get another massage or something. But or go to the therapist. There are wonderful therapists out there, and not knocking that at all. And I love getting massage when I can. But this is something where you get to notice what's going on with you and immediately start thinking differently to get different results. And it happens very, very fast. You get better control over your mind. You get a more relaxed, flexible body. You become more responsive emotionally and less reactive in your relationships, which is hugely healing. You become more spiritually open, intuitive, and creative. You become able to learn new skills and make faster progress with your instrument. So if you're at a technical plateau, once you learn how to do primary practice, you can rise up to the next level of what's possible for you much more quickly. And again, when you really learn how to take care of yourself with primary practice, Primal Alexander and the Art of Freedom method, your relationships start getting better, starting with your relationship with yourself. And then your relationship with your instrument, and then with your family, your students, the people around you, your audiences. When you're more open and find more ease in your body, you're more relaxed, you feel more confident, and you can connect on a deeper level with the people around you. You have more empathy. You have more compassion for the other people that are suffering. Even if you are suffering deeply, suddenly you can open up and recognize what's going on around you, and you can start really embodying gratitude, not just thinking grateful thoughts, not just making gratitude lists, but really fully, deeply embodying gratitude for your life and love it. Okay, so I promised this would only be an hour, so I'm just going to take a few moments now to wind this down. But before I do, I want to make sure you know about my 5-week program for musicians, for women musicians, I forget exactly what it's called. Relaxed confidence, joy, and authentic self-expression for women musicians. This is my brand new 5-week course. It's available now. Just type info into the comments if you need to go and you want me to send you the information if you can't stay on now. So oh gosh, I didn't even get to the third thing. Just really quick. The third step is to get a taste of what's possible. And these new skills, the primary practice that you can learn by working with me, they require practice. They're very simple, quick, and easy, but learning how to play and coordinate this primary instrument that is yourself requires practice. It's a skill. So you need to learn the steps. I have a step-by-step signature system that takes you very clearly through a process that, again, from day one, you start being able to do this. It's really simple, really easy, but you have to be able to practice it. And there are 3 stages of development that I share. The first stage, and these correspond to my self-study courses, by the way. The level 1 course, which is in the 5-week program that I'll tell you about in a minute. The level 1 course is all about self-ease and primary practice. That's what I've been talking to you about today. You don't even need your musical instrument for that. You're learning how to be yourself and free yourself and let go and experience more ease and joy and connect to your purpose right now from moment to moment. That's self-ease. Once you learn how to do that, you can start working on musical integration and how to bring your free, authentic, best self to your violin, your trombone, your piano, whatever your instrument is, your conducting baton, your voice, any activity. You start to learn the specifics of how to integrate the self-ease that you're learning to develop with your musical skills. That's the second stage of development. And the third one is artistic transformation, where it's just amazing what's possible when you learn cutting edge practice strategies based on mainstream research and everything, but you bring primary practice into it, where you're doing the constructive thinking and accessing ease in yourself while you are practicing in very, very specific, detailed ways that I teach. Okay, so that's the third stage, is the third step to break through whatever's holding you back as a musician. And again, as a recap, the 3 steps that I shared with you today, that you need to embrace your authentic voice and really feel relaxed and joyful on stage anytime you want, regardless of the circumstances. Or number 1, get informed about the common problems that face musicians and those 5 main obstacles that I told you about. Then you need to know about the one simple solution that addresses all of it by putting the ball back in your court and learning how to do primary practice with the Art of Freedom method and Primal Alexander. It's foolproof, it's easy, and I offer a 100% money back guarantee on my intro program because it works. Nobody's ever needed it, but because it works. It's really simple and easy to do. It's just so simple that nobody's ever thought of it. It's incredible. It's like the fish in water that they don't know they're in water, and we never think about the air we breathe when it's clean, right? So then the third step is to actually experience it and practice it so that you can experience for yourself what's possible. And we have very clear, short, simple awareness etudes in Primal Alexander. That these are things that I teach my students from day one, and they develop a repertoire of very simple awareness etudes that really shifts your whole perspective on everything and helps you shed layers, decades of tension really fast. So those are the 3 steps. And now I told you I would share like specifics about the 5-week program coming up. By the way, before I do that, I'm just going to hop over to the comments. Um, Lovely. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and commenting. I'm going to see if I'm going to come back to this afterwards to see if there are any questions. First, I want to tell you about the 5-week course that's coming up. It's similar to some other introductory courses that I've taught in the past, but it's very different because we're going to have a very special focus on women. And it's just for women, self-identifying women, very open. No discrimination, no judgment here. This is an open and affirming community. I don't know how to say it right, but everybody's welcome. But just for ease of expression, this is a group for women, self-identifying women. It's called Relaxed Confidence, Joy, and Authentic Self-Expression for Women in Music. And it's for women specifically who find it difficult to express yourself freely and authentically in everyday life and in relationships and when playing your instrument for others, whether that's at home or on stage in front of thousands of people. You will learn the basics of the Art of Freedom method for conscious living and masterful artistry. You're going to learn the basics of Primal Alexander, and you're going to have a very simple daily practice that you start right away, where you do Primal Alexander awareness etudes twice a day for just a few minutes at a time. So really all you need to go through this program is minimal time. You need maybe 2 to 5 minutes twice a day. And then every 4 or 5 days, you want to block off some time to watch a longer video. But I've really designed this program for people who are really busy or who have lots of time. There are 3 different levels of engagement. You can do the minimal program and get fantastic results with minimal time and energy. So you get a self-study course. That's my level 1 course. And you also get access to a special seminar for women. We're doing 3 sessions over the 5 weeks. You do not need to attend in person. Sorry, it's not in person. You don't need to attend live. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. I have a lot of students around the world. I have a lot of people in Australia who, I can't believe it. Sometimes they get up to come to a 5 a.m. class, and I'm just overwhelmed that they do that. It's so amazing. But I have people on the other side of the planet. I have somebody right now that comes to mind in China who can never do anything live, but she watches the videos and has had incredible, amazing results from that. I have somebody in Syria, someone in Iran. I have people all over Europe. So time zone, it doesn't matter. You can watch the recordings if you can't attend live. But if you can attend live, it's so wonderful to be in a group of other musicians who are working on similar issues, dealing with the same kinds of things, and have the same kind of love and passion for music and wanting to share their best with the world, healing themselves and healing the world through music. It's really special to be in a group like that. I have an ongoing membership of the people who've done my level 1 and maybe 2 and 3 courses also. We meet every week, and it's so healing and special, and we are there for each other. It's just really great. So I'd love for you to get a taste of that with a special group for women, and you'll also get full membership benefits into that other community that is ongoing. So people who've been working with me for maybe years. I have some people who've been there for like 6 years already. It's a tried and true program, that's for sure. So you get access to basically everything that I can give, but you can just do the minimum. Just learn your awareness etudes with a self-study course, watch a few videos, and then you get a private coaching session with me so that I can give you specific feedback on what you're experiencing and help you with whatever issues are coming up for you. Pretty much anything goes, because you can apply primary practice, taking care of yourself, and the specific methods I teach to anything that you do. So self-study course, group program with membership forum. We have our own private membership site off of Facebook. Um, Lots of videos, tutorials, and private coaching. That's all included in this 5-week program. Because there is a special seminar for women, and women are starting at the same time. Um, there is a time frame here. However, so let me just tell you, we're starting on May 31st, and the early bird bonuses go away on May 20th. Registration closes May 24th. Don't worry if these dates don't work for you. Reach out to me anyway, because I can offer an alternate uh, program for you, which is equally wonderful. So if you're interested in this, but May 31st is not a good time for you to start, don't worry. Although it's going to be pretty special, so I hope you can do it. Type info into the comments if you want me to send you information with all the details, including the investment level and everything else that you need to know, like early bird bonuses, discount, and all that. So that's it about my 5-week program coming up. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here with me today, and for staying with me, and for, throwing out your emojis. Maybe just do a shower of emojis, everybody, right now, to say goodbye before we dive into seeing if there are questions. Please share this video if you found it useful. If you want the replay and you're not on my list, type replay into the comments, and I'll make sure to put you on my email list so that you get the replay sent to your inbox. personally from me. And you'll also be put onto my newsletter. So you'll get tons of interesting information. Multiple times a week, I'm sharing useful stuff for musicians. So you'll get on my email list for that as well. I think that's what I wanted to share. So thank you again for being here. And now I'm willing to stay on a little longer. If anybody's got some questions for me, I'm going to just get my phone and see what's here. If I can see all your comments. Thank you so much for the comments here. I'm going to scroll up to the top and I'm going to give you a little feedback on what you're writing here. I can't play in front of my violinist husband. Oh my gosh, I bet you there are so many people that can relate to that. What's really funny is that my partner, Mia Morales, who is the creator of Primal Alexander, and I'm here at his house for the whole month. I said, go for a walk. So he just came back a little bit ago. But I know it's really hard to be yourself completely, fully, freely, even in front of the people you love the most in the world. So I hear you, Shira. And yet, there's so much that we can do to overcome that. And it would be wonderful if you could learn to love playing in front of your husband. And yes, I'm working towards loving teaching in front of my boyfriend. Oh, it says he's watching. Somebody wrote, Mio Morales is watching. So he was watching anyway. Okay, great. Hillary playing while hula hooping. Love that. Seriously jumping over my shadow in a few weeks, throwing myself a huge 60th. So unlike me. Hey, bravo. I wish I could put emojis out there for you because that's really great. I'm so happy you're throwing yourself a party. You deserve that. When I finally published my book in January, I had my 50th birthday during the pandemic, so I couldn't have a party. It was really sad. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to throw myself a launch party. So I did. It was so much fun. I don't know how many, it was like hundreds of people showed up for my online launch party. It was so heartwarming and yeah, really overwhelming. I hope you have a fantastic time. I think every woman ought to throw herself a party. Something that everybody can do that is really nice. If you've never done this before, go buy yourself flowers. That's your assignment. Speaking your truth is fine, Jennifer. Oh, yes, thank you. Carol says, I need not be attached. I've struggled with that. Concentrating on the music helps me. Oh, yes. Just expressing what's there, reacting to the musicians around me, and not thinking. Yes, our thoughts really do get in the way, and we need to have a system and skills that we know how to practice to get better control over our minds. And this is a big part of the Art of Freedom method in Primal Alexander. It's about noticing what's going on up here and then having a very specific thing you can do as an antidote immediately, even when you're in the middle of playing something like the Tchaikovsky concerto. Like you have to be able to do it on the spot and thinking less. It's like we use our minds to get the mind out of the way. I tell my students that a lot. Yes. DBT teaches us that should is not a helpful word. Oh, yes. And let me give you, if you don't know this already, but I'm sure there are some people watching that don't know this. I just taught it to a client yesterday. There's a really easy, quick trick. There's a tip to help you when you hear yourself shoulding yourself, thinking I should or I shouldn't, turn it into could. It's like magic because that opens up the door to all possibility. And that is the key when you're open, truly open to all possibility. So turn shoulds into could and see what happens. And let me know if you do. Okay, wonderful. Yes. I love this, Carol. I love my husband. He's darling and does a lot, but see, he seems to have a much more carefree attitude about practicing a horn. I look around the house and see crap everywhere and have no peace to practice. Very hard to not feel guilty. You know what? I laughed, but I can relate to that. And there's a lot in that comment. So kind of going back to the obstacles that are typically more issues for women. And I say typically because there are a lot of very neat and fastidious and clean men out there. Lots and lots of them. So I'm not trying, by the way, in all of my work, I'm never, ever trying to put down men at all in any way whatsoever. That's not what I'm about, and I don't believe in doing that. However, there are certain stereotypes that often do come from a grain of reality. That's why they're there. And I have the sense that we women, because of our historical role in the home and the pressures that have been put on us by societies, by tradition, and then the that we have taken on to put on ourselves, there's a lot of pressure to have a clean, organized, smooth running household. So, if anybody here still watching can relate to that, I would love a thumbs up or an emoji or a comment on that, because at least me personally, I know that that's in my history. And I've needed to do quite a lot of self work with the skills that I teach. And I'm so much better at it now, to notice how I am reacting to the mess or the dirt or whatever. Like, what is happening to me? And when I take care of myself first, then if I want to say something, I can say it with love and ease and not so much attachment to the outcomes, which is way better for a relationship. So if you want to improve any relationship, you've got to start with improving your relationship with yourself and learning how to let go of the tension that comes with difficult emotions. You need to know how to process those. And sometimes you might need to take a little time to do that on your own. But with practice, you get much better at it. And then it's pretty amazing. I'll use the word miraculous again, how when you do that work, things start to happen on the outside that are like, wow, how did that happen? It's like, I had nothing to do with that. Things just start to work. It's pretty amazing. So, yeah, and guilt. Oh my gosh, women's guilt, that's so huge. But think about it. When you feel guilty, are you feeling open and loving, or are you making yourself small and constricting yourself and increasing the tension levels? Do you ever feel guilty about not practicing enough, about not being with your family enough? You name it. The list of potentially guilt-inducing thoughts is enormous for everyone. But now I'm talking about women. We have our own unique ways of bashing ourselves. So if you do that to yourself, you got to start to connect the dots. When I think this way, this is what happens in my body, and this is how I feel emotionally. Then you need to know how to do what we call constructive thinking, which is the key ingredient to primary practice. When you know how to do that, you can instantly take yourself in the opposite direction, open up to all possibility, and everything starts to open up and get easier. It's amazing. Yes, no time in the house is a mess. Yes. I know the feeling. Run, Jennifer, run. Oh, thank you. That's when my power cord was not here, right? I'm so glad that I could fix that quickly. Marry him or I can identify. Yep. Oh, yeah, so many stories coming out. That's the only good thing. Yeah, definitely. A lot of the stuff that we have to deal with and that I'm alluding to today or talking about today is tough. There's a lot of it's really tough stuff, especially when we go into, the sexual abuse and all that arena. That is really, really tough. And yet it's always about right now. What can I do for myself right now? And that's the primary practice that we need to get really, really good at. And truly, we need training on very specific ways to do that, that integrate thinking with your mind, with your body, with your emotions, with your creative spirit. So many psychological systems out there don't bring in spirit, and you can call spirit whatever you want. You can use the word love, you can use the word God. To me, it's just, let's call it creative spirit. I like to use the word love a lot. I feel like that's a really universal word, but I'm talking about all of that, something mysterious, grand, universal, divine, that we can tap into, because that's who we really are. And we need to just stop getting in the way of that. And so we need a system that integrates all of it. Not only does it integrate your purpose, your mind, body, spirit, it also integrates the specifics of instrumental technique, practice techniques, performance. It's like all in there in the Art of Freedom method. So just needed to say that. Oh yeah, Mug, cello teacher, made me almost want to quit. There was a party at, oh, so you were at IU too. That's right. I just remembered, Carol. There was a party at Starker's house. All cello students were invited. Mug asked me, "What are you doing here?" Oh God, just so shitty of him. So sorry about that. My throat's getting tight writing this. Absolutely. And that's what happens. Even old memories. I have a student right now who, whenever we're working, it's like old memories from her childhood come up, and her parents' approach to her musical lessons and how they sold her violin at one point. And then there's the Asian student who came to me, was working with me, and absolutely couldn't connect to the idea of joy in making music. She gave me this big blank stare. She had no concept of what I was talking about because her parents had forced her to play the violin. She never wanted to. And she was forced to practice like between 5 and 8 hours a day or something throughout her childhood and teenage because they decided she was going to be a professional musician. There was no joy in there, and it was all pushing, 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 pushing. They even made her move to the United States by herself to go to music school. She got into music school. She came into my studio, and joy, music, they did not go together. But I was able to help her get there. And by the end of the semester, she had an incredible smile and she knew how to access joy playing her violin. Oh, that was one of the most amazing transformations. But actually, not that uncommon with my students, I have to say. People recover from pain. I'm thinking of two people right now. Their doctors said they would always be in pain because of horrific car accidents, broken spines, and disease, all kinds of stuff. Doctors should be put in jail when they say you will never get better. But these students came to me thinking they would never be out of pain, and they're pain free now. So go figure. Anything's possible. Oh, you're making friends. I love it. Lots of health issues. Doctors are notorious for not listening. That's another huge topic for women. Oh my gosh. I didn't know this, but last year I started reading this book. I can't remember the name of it, but it's all about how pretty much everything in the medical world, medical profession, everything has been tested on men. And they don't even know anything about women. That was mind blowing for me, just shocking that it's just, even in today's modern world, medicine does not know how to take care of women because there haven't been studies done. You are so, so behind in women's issues. And I mean, to say nothing of politics right now, won't go there. They don't go into politics with my students. Responding in real-time fashion, practicing assertiveness is so difficult. That's what this is all about. And overcoming being frozen on stage. Yes. Yeah, changing fear and frozenness into excitedness is a good strategy. I always talk about how performance anxiety is just the other side of the same coin of performance excitement. So yes, that can work. And yet you also want to watch out for the high levels of adrenaline and stress hormones, and you need to have a system, need to have tools that nip it in the bud early and that also can cut it off and stop the cycle. Because what you think is what you get. When you're thinking nervous thoughts, your body will keep producing those hormones. So you need to have specific tools leading that you can use leading up to the date of a stressful event, performance, audition, all that, and then specific things that you can do on the day of and during the performance. So that's kind of advanced to be able to do it while you're playing. Yeah, I'm just going to move through these a little quicker. Thank you so much for all the comments. I love how engaged you are in here. Yes, there is a discount on my 5-week program that, again, type info into the comments if you want me to send you info. There's an early bird discount and bonuses that end on the 20th of May. And yes, you can do a very similar course anytime, Carol. You're asking about that. This particular course is going to be unique because I'm going to have a group of women starting at the same time. doing it together with 3 live seminars that are focusing on women's issues. But I have a very similar program that you can start anytime. So if you know that May 31st is not a good time for you to start something, reach out to me anyway, and we'll talk about an alternative for you. I love these. Wow, amazing. Wow. Great. Oh, thanks for the info requests. I will be sending these to you. That would be wonderful. If you're freaking out about this party, you really need me. Have a great time. Oh, yes. Flowers, definitely. Our thoughts, yes, they are our worst enemies. Yes. So, yes, things need to change in the world around us for sure. But the best changes are going to happen from people who are really centered and know how to speak from ease and know how to think well with ease. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't help to blame people. Sure, there are horrible, awful people out there that do awful things, but when you go into blame mode, eh, tension levels increase. You need to come back inward. It's the only way. Okay, wonderful. Oh, perfect birthday present. Yes. Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah, definitely. Um, oh, yeah. Doctors tell women all the time that it's all in their head. Don't get me started. Yes. And women's heart attack symptoms are different. Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm going to put down the phone and thank you again so much for being here. And I hope that this session was really useful and hopefully inspiring to all of you. And again, reach out. Just put info in the comments now or later. Send me an email to jennifer@artoffreedom.me if you'd rather connect with me off of Facebook. That's fine too. I usually like to use Facebook Messenger because then we can chat more easily. But if you don't like that, or you're not on Messenger, or you just want to get off Facebook, or you're watching a replay, you can just send me an email and put info in the subject line, and I'll know what it's about. You don't even have to send me a message, although it would be really helpful if you could put into the message just a little bit about yourself, what kind of musician you are, a little bit about what interests you about the course. That would just be really helpful so that I can make sure this is the right program for you. Okay, thanks again. Have a great day, and I hope to be in touch with you very soon. Lots of love, be well, and don't be afraid to be yourself just a little bit more with people today.